Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us here today. We are 14 in the room on Webinar Jam, but I know more people are watching live on YouTube. If you have technical issues with Webinar Jam, you should be seeing a YouTube link, and you can go to that very simply. Thank you again for your time. Apologies for the last time earlier this year when we ran into technical problems, and thank you for making time to come back this once. We've now fixed everything, and I'm pleased to say that we've tried and tested everything with all three speakers, and this will go very smoothly today. So the topic of our webinar today, as you know very well, is practical steps to start fundraising. You probably know about the guide that ILGA Europe and the Global Philanthropy Project published last year, called It Shows That People Care. It's a guide to fundraising from individual donors for LGBTI organizations in Europe and Central Asia, but this may apply to a much wider scope. And of course, we have people from the USA and other places here, and we hope you'll find something interesting here today. You will be able to find the guide on ILGA Europe's website, and at the very end of this webinar, I'll give you a link to that, as well as a clue as to how to get the insider's briefing, which includes strategic recommendations that you will not find online, but that ILGA Europe will be able to send you directly. In terms of the timeline, we have two main speakers today, and that's Emina Bosniak from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Stephanie Hetjens from Switzerland. So I'll turn to Emina first. We'll have a quick chat with her, and then I'll invite questions to Emina. And then I'll turn to Steffi, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions as well. And finally, we'll have a chance to ask even more questions and to discuss specific issues you have or specific questions you have. And all throughout, Anna Shepard, ILGA Europe's fundraising manager or director, she'll probably correct me, is going to be with us, and we'll also have a lot of insights for us. That's it. Just so you know, it's being recorded so that people who couldn't make it today will be able to listen to this in the future. So if you do ask a question, ask your best possible question. Not that you wouldn't, of course. Great. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Emina to turn on her microphone and camera, as well as Anna, please. And I'm letting you all know, hi, welcome both. And I'm letting you all know, if you're in Webinar Jam, you have a chat box, which should be this side of the video. You can ask your questions inside this chat box at any time, and we'll look at them, and I will ask them to our speakers when the right time comes. So don't hesitate to send the question. And then my colleague Lisa Marie is looking at the YouTube comments. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to ask a question, post a comment under the video, and we'll get that. Okay. Hi, Emina. How are you?
Hi, good.
Great. Thank you for joining us today. And hi, Anna. How are you? Just checking your microphone works as well.
Oh, I'm well, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Anna and I are actually in the same office, but in two different rooms across the corridor, so that's a little strange. Okay, so Emina, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience with us again today. I'm saying again because in the ILGA Europe and GPP guide, it shows that people care. I have interviewed you, and there's a complete case study on what you and your colleagues did in Bosnia and Herzegovina when you started your fundraising. And so this is why we've invited you again today. It's because your case study was really interesting, and it really showed how you can absolutely start fundraising pretty much from scratch with just a good idea and a good opportunity, a good event in your case. So can I start by asking you very briefly who you are and what your organization does?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here today and to have the chance to share our experience in fundraising from individuals. My name is Emina Bosniak. Thank you for presenting me, and I'm currently the executive director of Sarajevo Open Center, which is a human rights NGO that works on LGBTI human rights, but also on the rights of women and gender equality. So we're basically not just an LGBT organization, but have a somewhat wider scope of work. We have been established more than 10 years ago, but we have been working for, I would say, 7 to 8 years on the issues of LGBTI human rights. And we are currently one of the biggest LGBTI or organization that works on LGBTI human rights in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we have also been recognized as one of the leaders of the LGBTI movement in the region of Western Balkans.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So your case study in the guide that is accessible to everyone, we titled it "Starting Small but Meaningful." I'm adding now because you had a very good idea. So you're in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where ILGA Europe judges that LGBTI rights are achieved at 31%. So it's not a great score. And the context for individual donations is so-so. It's not usual for people to make individual donations. So in that context, where did you start fundraising?
For us, it was important to just tie the local LGBTI community to the work that we do in different and meaningful ways. Currently, our yearly budget is, I would say we're a relatively big organization, and our yearly budget amounts to almost 400,000 euros. So we're not a small organization, but we wanted to include, as I said, the LGBTI people living here locally in the things that we do. So we basically try to find certain instances of our work where we thought that the community would find it meaningful to contribute, not just in showing up or I don't know, being more visible, but in also helping other people from the community to achieve some of the things that they want. And one of the first instances where we did this was a case where we wanted one of the members of the community. He was also an activist. He now lives abroad. He's not in Bosnia and Herzegovina anymore. But at the time, he wanted to start a process of gender reassignment, and he didn't have the money that he needed at the time. So we basically mobilized a lot of our friends, members of the community, also because we really wanted, and he needed the money. We also included and mobilized certain people that we knew that could be in the position to donate the money, and we organized an auction. And anybody could bring anything that they wanted. I mean, the things did not have to be, of course, expensive or anything special, but it was just kind of a symbolic act where they could bring some of the things and people would auction for them. And I guess this sense of helping somebody concretely, helping a person do something that they really want, really engaged people, and people gave, I would say, a lot of money for things that were, I don't know, very simple. For example, somebody brought a candle and it was auctioned for 50 euros, for example. So basically it was the event itself and the community that was there and just the spirit of the action was something that I guess motivated people to contribute and give the money.
And something really important that you said earlier, and I know, Anna, you will agree with this, it's that you wanted to engage people differently. So for you, fundraising from the beginning hasn't been only about getting money. It's been about mobilizing and strengthening a community. And so that was the first example. You fundraised for the gender reassignment surgery of one of your community members by organizing a very simple but efficient auction. Another example I'd like you to tell us about is the time when you set up a merchandise sale stand at your queer movie festival.
Exactly. I mean, you said the most important thing. For us, we're good at fundraising from different, I would say, the usual suspect donors. And somehow we felt that community got used to that we would kind of have the projects, have the money, organize the things, and then things would happen. But we wanted to not just be the only ones who do things. We wanted to engage others in different ways. Medlinka Festival is one of the good examples. We're in a position to have the money from the donors and to organize the festival, and to also produce different promotional material that is related to the festival. And we did it, and we said, well, what could be, how this material could be used in a better way. And we said, well, let's bring some other informal groups or other activists, other organizations that could use the money, and let's engage them in a way that they would be selling this merchandise. Medlinka Festival is a festival that we've been organizing for years, actually hosting it in Sarajevo because it's established in Belgrade, but we have been organizing it for years. The community feels that it's something that really also belongs to them. And these groups and organizations that we approached with the idea, they loved it. They said, well, okay, it's great. We're going to sell the merchandise. And all the proceeds from selling the merchandise actually went to them. So we didn't keep the money. We just said, we can produce the material, then you go and sell it during the festival, and everything that you collect is basically yours. And I mean, they did, it's the level of the money that they received, it can be measured in hundreds of euros. And it's not, again, it's not money that you can do kind of, many things with, but for them, it was enough to organize some of the things in their own towns, because they weren't all from Sarajevo, they were from other regional centers. And basically they, some of them organized screenings of the movies that we screened during this Medlinka Festival. Some of them took it to organize some of the sports events for the LGBTI community. And it was just, again, engaging them to actually find the funds, or to collect the funds for things that they want to do within their local communities.
Okay, great. So, and there are, in the case study that is in the guide about your work, there are 3 more examples. You sold a diary, you added an online donation button to your website, and you also received money from abroad, from someone from Bosnia who got married in the United States, I think, and who collected and sent money to your way. I'll let people look at the guide if they want more details on these. But for now, because the title of this seminar is Practical Steps to Start Your Fundraising, I want to ask you practically, how did you get started?
Practically, it was coming up with the idea that actually stemmed from the team of Sarajevo Open Center, saying that how can we help other local organizations or LGBTI groups? And sometimes the question always goes back to funds and money. And we said, well, how can we, as an organization with a lot of financial resources on our hand, help others in a meaningful way? So it always starts with the idea and with something small. It doesn't have to be a money that is measured in, I don't know, thousands of or tens of thousands of euros, but simple actions can be meaningful for others, and that's something I think everybody should bear in mind. And
so, what very first steps did you take then? You had agreed that you wanted to help these small organizations. Where did you start?
We started from the things that we do, and just kind of reevaluate them and see if there's a possibility to somehow find a way to collect the money from individuals from the things that we do. Because for Medlinka Festival, we always printed the promotional material, but then during the 5th festival, we came to this idea that we could also sell it, but of course, then give the money to others.
Very good. That connects to one of the one of the 3 essential first steps that we recommend that you do to start your fundraising whenever in whatever situation. It's the 2nd step, and it is called map your resources. So just as you are highlighting, Emina, we suggest, ILGA Europe and the Global Philanthropy Project suggest that to start fundraising, you need to start looking at what you have, what you already do, and look at it from a fundraising perspective. Could you raise funds with it? So, which is exactly what you did. And so you identified we could sell merchandise, and then what did you do next? Did you assemble a team, or did you book a space, or?
We actually, because the space was already booked, we just contacted, discussed it again in a team who we think would benefit from these kind of amounts of money that we predicted we could be collected. And then we reached out to these organizations from the region and the ones who were dealing with kind of empowering community through sports and recreation. We connected them and said, this is our idea. And if you're interested, you're going to have to pitch in terms of being there and selling the merchandise. And they agreed, and they just came to the festival.
Okay. Did you have any costs in producing the merchandise, or that was planned anyway?
It was planned anyway, so it was no extra cost.
Okay. So if I'm going to summarize, it took you to have the idea, to call up the people and suggest it to them, and they agreed, and then to simply set up a table and start selling the merchandise?
Exactly.
Great. That sounds really simple. Okay, wonderful. Anna, at this point, do you want to come in? Did this inspire anything in terms of commentary as a fundraising super consultant?
Yeah, I think there were many really good points. I think what you already mentioned about that kind of fundraising as almost community building. So I really like the points about how you tied the community to your activities and the work of your organization, and were able to mobilize people to feel really engaged. So I think it's really important to me always to emphasize this element of fundraising, that it's not just about money, it's about building communities who can support your work in many ways. And just the second point that came to my mind was, again, this about mapping the networks and resources you have. So in your case, you looked at kind of what activities are you already doing, and how can you include a fundraising element in them. And this is a really good way to start. Other ways to do that could be mapping to see who amongst your community or supporters have, for example, a venue or a talent or something that you could tap into to kind of get started with a fundraising idea.
Great, thank you. And Emina, so before I turn to you for just a second, I'm going to turn to everyone else. We are now 18 in the room. You have a chat box on the right-hand side. It should be there. And on that chat box, you can start typing questions you have for Emina, or for Anna, or for myself, or for Stephanie after she's spoken. And if you write down those questions in the chat box, we'll be looking at them, and I'll be asking them to our speakers. And so before we finish with your segment, Emina, so how did you take that first experience and are you planning to improve it? Are you planning to continue or fundraise differently? What are you thinking right now?
Well, for the Merlinka Festival, I think we're going to keep it as a tradition. This year we had a festival in again at the end of January, and again we did the same thing, sell the merchandise. But one new thing that we included was that we invited a small business that is owned by the members of LGBTI community to sell what they were producing. So basically, it was not a way to fundraise, but again, it was a way to, maybe it's more connected to building the community again and connecting the community in different ways. I mean, with those who are willing to buy and those who are willing to sell. But for the future, I think we're just going to tap into what other things we could use. I think what Anna said, searching and mapping for the people within the community who have certain talents might be something that we are going to think more about in the future.
Great, good idea. And so what's that person selling exactly?
They're actually creating or making herbal teas, basically.
Herbal tea
and
is great.
they're selling them. So very healthy, organic, and good for everyone.
Great, very good. Well, one can imagine that this time around you're helping them by advertising their products, and maybe that will increase their sales if all goes well. And maybe in 1 or 2 years' time, you will be looking for a partner to do fundraising with, and that person will be happy to help you because you've helped them.
Yeah, it's form of a investment in a way. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, great, wonderful. Anna, do you want to add anything before we move over to Stephanie?
No, excited to hear more from Stephanie.
Great, wonderful. Well, Emina, thank you so much. We don't have a question for you just now, but it may come later. Can I invite you to switch your microphone and camera off? And then I'm inviting Stephanie to turn hers on, if she can.
Hello.
Hey, Stephanie, welcome. For just a second, because there's Pierre Giorgio Massi who's saying, I understand that the Bosnian Association, so that's Emina's association, has a tight connection with the local territory. Is that right? Well, Emina, I guess this is right indeed, right? She may have left her seat. Yes, you have a very close connection with your local territory.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, Pier Giorgio is typing that he's in an association of lawyers who are spread all over Italy, and they don't have any connection with the local territory. And so he's asking, would those fundraising techniques help? Well, Emina, do you have a suggestion on this? And then I know Anna will want to respond.
Well, I think one of the instances that you mentioned is that we looked to our diaspora. For example, I think that's a good way to connect with people that are not just living within your country but outside, and that might want to bring something back to the country and to the people still living back in the country. So, I mean, for us, Bosnia in that sense might be in a kind of a specific position, because a lot of people during the 90s went to live in different European countries and US and Canada as well. And there's a big diaspora. So that's something just to maybe have in mind and tap into. Because I think a sense of nostalgia and sense of wanting to keep connected to your country of origin might be something that motivates people to donate individually.
Yes, very true. Thank you for that point. And Anna, do you want to come in?
Yeah, well, when we talk about community building in terms of fundraising, the community can mean many things. It can mean LGBTI people living in a certain city or a certain country, a certain region. But if you're talking about, for example, an organization that offers legal support on a national level, maybe there is some other aspect of identity. Maybe it could be kind of lawyers or law firms across the country. So just looking a bit about how to frame that community, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, the fundraising doesn't have to take the form of an event in a certain place. It could be perhaps something online. It could be, inviting lawyers interested in LGBTI rights to host a dinner within their own communities, wherever they are, and asking for donations. So just looking at kind of how to frame that identity among your target group.
Great, thank you. Very good question. Very good aspect. And Pier Giorgio and others, I would say that also you will find in the guide, this shows that people care. You'll find on pages 22 and 23, just before the 10 case studies, you'll see that we've tagged case studies in specific ways. So for example, you'll find a tag hashtag events for case studies showing fundraising events. You'll find a hashtag online for fundraising that happened on the web. You'll find a face-to-face hashtag where people have been asking people face-to-face. You'll find merchandise, services, international. So all those are different approaches, different methods to fundraising and for different objectives. And you'll also find hashtags to tell you the infrastructure size of the organizations, because we have an organization such as Emina's, that is rather small comparatively, but then you have very large organizations that have fundraising, for which we have one or two examples. And it's not so much actually the size of the organization, but the size of the organizing behind the fundraising. But what you will find in those case studies is that you can fundraise from any perspective, at any size, and within any community. So it's really about finding the individual aspects of your situation and your community that will make a difference. There's a second question. Sorry, Steffi. There's a second question from Apostolis Karabaris. Emina Apostolis is asking, do you organize your fundraising as separate fundraising events, an auction, a bazaar, etc., or was it something that went along with the main event, like the selling point of the festival? That's one first question, and there's another one I'll add just after.
Well, I want to say hi to Apostolis. I know him. He's a good fellow activist. Usually, those were the kind of events that went along with the main event. They were part of a larger program. Apart from the auction that I mentioned at the beginning, it was a standalone event.
Okay, a standalone event at the beginning, and then as part of the festival otherwise. And Apostolis is also asking, how do you connect with your diaspora? Because diasporic organizations are usually rather nationalist and not so LGBTI friendly. How did you get there?
Well, we usually connect with individuals. I mean, I believe that our main kind of source for the information on what we do and how we communicate our things our results and activities and everything is our webpage, which we keep in local languages, but also in English. So the diaspora usually knows the Bosnian, Croatian, or Serbian language as well, but it's the information that we put out there that reaches out to certain individuals, not to groups in diaspora who might sometimes be, I don't know, nationalistic, but it's the individuals that we count on. And
the individuals, sorry.
Exactly.
And I guess one way to reach a network of LGBTI individuals who expatriated themselves or who migrated, it can be through social media, and notably Facebook, because if you create a Facebook group, for example, for LGBTI Bosnians living abroad, soon enough you'll identify a few individuals, and they will know their friends, and they will know their friends. So this is a good way to start creating a community as well. Thank you very much. And now there's one last question to Emina from Victoria Bondikiova, and her question is: in Macedonia, we have issues in terms of mobilizing and including the LGBTI community. So what were your challenges, Emina, and how did you manage to organize your community and include it in the process of fundraising?
Don't we all have the same problem? I mean, it's always challenging, and it takes a lot of effort. But I believe that for a very long time, and I think I mentioned it earlier, we did our best to give as much as we can to the community. That was the first step. And then I believe that the community sees that and appreciates that. But at a certain point, we were also very honest at communicating certain things. We said, well, again, here is the member of our community. We are now here, all of us, to try to be and show solidarity. And, can we do this by just, I don't know, taking the money that you would take for buying the coffee or beer instead of, helping helping a friend, or, well, not a friend, but a member of the community. And people actually responded to that. I think if you're looking for individual funds to kind of finance the work that you do that might be complex or that speaks about abstract terms such as fight against discrimination, the chances might be less that you're going to collect the money from individuals. But if there is a concrete person they're helping, a very concrete cause that they identify with, it's going to be much easier to mobilize the community and then engage them as well.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much for that insight. I see Emanuela from Nigeria is starting to ask a question. Emanuela, I'll let you continue typing it, and then I'll get back to it after we've spoken with Stephanie, if that's okay with you. But please go ahead. Stephanie, hi, and thank you so much for taking the time. It's a pleasure to speak with you again because we also featured you and your organization as a case study in It Shows That People Care. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself, who you are, and what your organization does?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hetjens. I'm co-president of TGNS, which is the transgender national organization in Switzerland, where I'm located right now. And we are actually originally a grassroots organization from the community, but developed to basically the national representation for trans people here in Switzerland. Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm co-president, and we are mainly a volunteering-led organization.
Okay, wonderful. That's a perfect transition into my next question, because you said you're a volunteer-led organization, but one of the challenges you successfully tackled was how to hire your first part-time general manager. People will be able to read about it in detail in the case study. However, so there is more that you can tell us. Tell us a little bit the background. So you're a volunteer-run organization, and you're trying to get money to hire a person?
Yeah. So originally, TGNS is founded 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago now, in 2010. And after 5 years, it was clear that just volunteering work is not enough to provide the services the community and everyone else in Switzerland is asking from us. And so back then the co-president, who was overworked, decided, okay, we somehow need to get money to employ someone part-time. 20% was the idea, so 1 day per week, to basically keep everything running and not burning out. And should I continue, or do you want to ask? Okay. So what he actually did is he looked into the community who he knows, and he just took the phone and called these people and said, hey, we really need help, and we have so much work and we have so much to do, and we need someone who is paid. Would you be up for helping funding this position for 2 years? And so he had a list of 30 people which he called, and basically now in the end, like 28 of these said yes, we are giving money on a monthly basis, specifically for this position, for this general manager, or back then just the administrative helping position, basically. And so people decided to give something between like 10 Swiss francs and I think 100 or 150 was the maximum what someone gave per month, which translates around like it's 1 to 120 compared to
between
euro.
15 and 90 euros, between 20 and $100 approximately. So basically, just to summarize what you're saying, so the co-president at the time said we need money, and he identified 30 people to simply call and ask them, will you donate a little bit of money so that we can commit to hiring someone part-time for 2 years? And people said yes 28 times out of 30.
Yeah, and you now say identified, which sounds like this was a big process, but it was basically, who do I know? I know this person, I know this person, I know this person.
Right.
And so these were trans people by themselves, or these were parents or partners of trans people. So these were people he somehow had a connection with, but not a fundraising connection, not a give me money connection. It was more like a friendship, basically. I think it goes also into one of these principles where see what resources you have, and then what network you have, and just
Absolutely.
talk with them.
Absolutely. Just talk with them. Just go out there and try it. So at the risk of making it sound too simple for our listeners, in this case, it was about just calling people up and asking them to donate money. And just to prove that it wasn't a one-off success, you 2 years after, when that funding came to an end, when people's pledges came to an end, you called people back and you asked them to renew their pledge, correct?
Exactly. So we called these 30 people, or these 28 people or something like this. So me and the current other co-president, and we told them, okay, so in the last 2 years, it happened that you funded this 20%. We found another 20% of employment, which was covered. We now have really a general manager, a new person, because the other person got sick. And hey, we still need your money. And basically everyone renewed it. And what was my personal really big surprise was that the first person I called was a woman from Zurich, from the city where I live, but she's not trans by herself, so she's not directly affected. But she was on the original list, and she said, okay, I will give you a one-time payment of 3,500 Swiss francs. Which,
that is a big amount of money.
Yes, it's also for Switzerland. It's a big amount of money.
Right, exactly.
Sorry.
So okay, so
I guess I need to say that.
First. No, absolutely, yeah, no. In even in your context, where of course, arguably, Switzerland is a very well-off country compared to everywhere else in the world. But even in that context, it was a massive amount of money that wouldn't come around just naturally, especially for an NGO. And so that was the first example that you shared with us in the case study. The second example was also extremely interesting. It's when you decided to use Pride to start fundraising. Can you tell us a little bit about how that went?
Yeah, so when I became co-president, like almost a year now ago, I identified, okay, we need more money, and we were thinking about possibilities. And one of the things we thought is maybe we could do an SMS funding campaign, which sounds no bigger than it actually was or is, but it kind of worked. So what I knew a little bit from my professional background that big NGOs can use SMS, especially as a tool if there's an emergency happening, and there's an earthquake, and they say, okay, now donate, and we will donate to these. And we knew that this is not working, but we tried to, because we are too small, but we tried to basically push that into our community and give the community a channel to donate a small amount if they want to donate. And so the first thing is what we tried is in the week before the local Pride here in Zurich was an event where I moderated, and like in every break I said, okay, and now write an SMS to this 3-digit number with support trans and donate us 7 francs and 65 rappen, which is cents here.
So for people to know, that was about basically doing one SMS donation would be €6.50 or about $9, $8 to $9.
Yeah, and it's not an even number. So this was actually, this helped in the end. So, but what we figured out that, okay, we did that, and no one donated, or basically no one donated to it. And then at the Pride, at the actual event, we had a booth, and we printed some flyers. And initially we said, okay, now we have the only talking point we want to talk with people who pass by is that they give us money. So all the other LGBT organizations, they had some, okay, you have to sign here the petition, or you can fill out here this form or whatever. And we said, okay, we need money, give us money. And and which is which is quite funny because it also helped the people in the booth to get into this mood of talking about it and like talking nicely about it. Like, I guess not only Anna just now laughed a little bit. It's like if you say, okay, we are only talking about money, this is actually somehow funny and helps a little bit to reduce the level. And
Can I just before you continue, for the non-native English speakers on the call, I just want them to be able to picture the scene. So it's a Pride festival. You're in Zurich, and you have a table like a lot of other people. You have a physical place where you have materials and you have your volunteers, and you have your volunteers with the flyer going to people on the street as they pass.
Yes, exactly. And then after a short time, we figured out that just giving the flyer doesn't help. But basically, we stopped the people and said, "Hey, we need money. Give us money." and then the first reaction is, "Okay, yeah, I will." Do you have something, some information how I can give money? And then we started to hand out the flyers, and the people went away with the flyers and didn't donate. And then we had the funny idea to say, oh, listen, we don't have so many flyers, so I can't give you this flyer. So if you want to donate, you actually have to do it now, because otherwise you don't have the details. And this was basically the tipping point, and was with that we managed to like triple the amount of money we normally get at the Pride event. Do you want to summarize?
Yeah, no, I don't want to summarize, but I want to move over to the analytical part, which is you had the great idea to not give the flyer, but to hold the flyer, and basically that forced people to make the decision on the spot whether they would donate or not. So that made all the difference between, let's say, 100 people walking away with your flyer in their pocket and then throwing it in the bin, and having maybe speaking to 100 people and having 10 or 15 of them decide on the spot that yes, they would give you money. So you went from 0 to how many people donated that day?
Actually, I have to say I forgot, but totally we got 2,500 Swiss francs.
That's about 2,200 euros or
yeah,
$2,600, something like that. Yes.
And
just from SMSs.
Yeah, no, the fun thing, or another fun fact about this is actually that there were people who said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to donate via SMS. So we always had the backup that we said, okay, we also accept cash. If you want us to give cash, yeah, sure, you can give us cash. And so the SMS was in the end like 1/3 of the amount was really donated via SMS, and the rest was basically donated like cash. But this was so much better than everything we did before. So the SMS really
what was better about it?
The SMS, or the call for action to the SMS was like an icebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
So that people started to think about it and then come up with, no, I actually want to give money, but I don't want to do it via SMS. I just give you here this bill or whatever.
Okay. So it acted as an icebreaker. Yes, go ahead.
What is actually also quite interesting is that, so from the closer network, so not people who are completely remote to us and just passed by, but if someone who donated via SMS once is super willingly to donate again. So actually, I have some people in the LGBT area here. When I meet them, I basically ask just for fun, hey, did you actually already donate this month via SMS? And then they say, oh, yeah, you are right. Okay. And then they start typing the SMS again.
And then they get the phone out and they donate on the spot.
Yes.
Great. So it's a gift that keeps on giving even.
Yeah, but it's always you have to ask for it. It's not that that people just think, oh, I didn't donate this month, so we are not that top of mind. So you need to tell them, hey, donate again. Why not?
Okay. But you created the first, you got them to take the first step, and so getting them to take it again is much less hard.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And so
Very
now
good.
in retro perspective, I would also say this was one of the success factors when we ask again for the money of the donation for the general manager position. So if the people actually, probably some of them never stopped this recurring bank transfer, and maybe they would have even continued if we wouldn't have to ask again. But so we have the commitment for another year and for another 2 years, and now that the chances are really big that they will do that.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So just like Emina in Bosnia, you started at TGNS, your organization. You started fundraising without any big plans or strategy or anything like that. You just got started on a whim almost. You did it in two different ways. The two different ways we just talked about, it was first the calling people you knew to fund the position of a part-time general manager, and the other was to fundraising successfully at a Pride event. People will be able to read more details into these two experiences in the guide that we'll share at the end of this call. In the meantime, can I ask Anna, what did you think of this, and did it elicit any advice from you?
Yeah, again, really great points. I think the loyalty was a really good point raised. So as you said, it's easier to retain a donor than recruit a new one. Showing positive results to donors of what they have helped achieve. So telling them, okay, because of your help, we've been able to hire a part-time person and improve the work of our organization. And that creates loyal supporters who might also spread the words amongst their own networks and help you do outreach work. I also really liked what you were saying about people really like to give to people rather than an organization as such. So talking to people face to face, picking up the phone and talking to them, explaining what your needs are, that also creates a kind of trust and willingness to give. And also the methods. So I really liked how you experimented with different ways, like the text message donation. It's something that's very easy for people to do. So just looking at what people use, they have their phone in their pockets all the time. So giving people an easy way to donate is also important, and experimenting with different ways.
Great, thank you. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, wonderful. And I'm going to turn to a question that Nevin Östop typed in. Nevin is a friend of ours, and she knows our work very well. And she works at Frida, the Young Feminist Fund, which is a very good place to get in touch with if you're looking into basically getting funds for your feminist activities. Nevin is actually wondering what, Stephanie, you will do or you have done maybe to strengthen your existing fundraising base. So you started mentioning that people had donated already via SMS, and you constantly remind them when you run into them. But she's asking specifically, do you have specific plans and strategies to move people up the ladder from occasional donations maybe to regular donations, or to increase the amount of their donations?
I have to say, right now, no. So what we did is, if you want to do something with SMS, probably you will find you cannot do it by yourself. So you need like a service provider who offers you this gateway, or however that is working in your country. And we are actually a really, really small organization. So we are way smaller than Emina's organization. And so we chose the smallest plan which is available, which doesn't offer us that we know who actually donated. So we don't have a channel. If someone donated via SMS and this person didn't come into any system or any list, we don't know actually who that did. On the other hand, so what we what we now integrated after the report was created is that we started to set up a CRM system, like it's a customer relationship system.
Mhm.
And
Can we say it's a database of people?
Yeah, basically it's a database of people, and we start to use that. But it is really hard for us because we have so many volunteering people, and we have no one who is like the head of data. So to do it a little bit more systematic, and everyone is totally overworked, including the 40% general manager and everyone. So it is right now really hard for us to come out of this unstructured, we just do it, to a more structured approach and systematic approach. And yeah, but maybe ask in a year again.
Okay, great, wonderful, thanks. Emina, can I ask you to turn your camera and microphone back on to join us so that we're full? Do you have any plan to move donors up the ladder?
Not yet, but actually hearing what Stephanie said about people who already donated are more likely to donate again. It started me thinking about ways that we should stay in contact, inform our previous individual donors. So currently no plans, but it's something that I definitely think we should and are going to keep in our minds.
Okay, great. I would add that in the guide, it shows that people care, and the insider briefing that we will share again at the end of this call, you will find strategies and ideas to stay in touch with existing donors, make it easier for them to continue donating, and make it likelier for them to donate more. Also, I would invite everyone on this call to watch out for your email. Watch your emails in the next few days, not over the weekend, but probably Monday or Tuesday, because we will send an email with the recordings of the 3 webinars. And one of these webinars was about the supporter journey and how to get supporters from where they are to the next level of donations. And that was a very interesting conversation as well. So Nevin, thank you so much for your question. We have an earlier question from Randall Mason from the US. Hi, Randall. Randall is asking, given the time investment that fundraising requires, how do you prioritize among your fundraising opportunities? For example, reaching out to new individual donors, writing grants, doing events, etc. How do you make that choice? Stephanie or Emina, whoever wants to go first.
I can go first.
Great,
okay, so this is also something which, so in general, the how we decided is now in the last 2 months we did the move to institutional donors. So we tried this as well, and we have 2 requests running, and then hope that we get something, which is actually way harder for us. It needs a lot of knowledge how to write these requests or these grants, or I don't know how exactly to say, and so that you actually have a chance. And the individual donors, it actually in the beginning it is really easy, because all you need is basically yourself, and then just talk with someone and say how great the stuff is you are doing, or your cause or whatever. And this is something you probably can do if you're working in an organization. And so what we then did, we thought about, so we extended a little bit the group of people who fund this position, this employment, and we actually thought from our knowledge, okay, who actually has money? So who do we know that the people are, that they don't need to be super rich, but who are not the super poor? And yeah, you also have these here, and so we tried to talk we try to talk with people who we thought have a little bit of money, and what we did is we tried to focus on people around the community. So we didn't, yeah.
So if I summarize your approach, you try a little bit of everything, but then, for example, for the grant writing approach, you've realized that it requires a lot of knowledge and time and investment, whereas others you're more willing to explore.
Yes,
So basically,
exactly.
try and fail.
Yes, try and fail,
okay,
all the time,
or try and succeed.
Yeah. At one
Okay,
point you will try and succeed.
exactly. Okay, thanks. And Emina, what is your strategy in choosing how to fundraise?
Well, the trying and reaching out and writing application for different grants, it definitely takes, well, the first place, it's a priority for us. And we have been luckily in such a position that we received core funding. So we're sometimes able to be more flexible with the time that we use, how we spend it at work. And individual donations are something that we try to raise, but just by doing things that we usually do, and keeping that in mind. And then, I don't know, you might have a meeting with someone, but then you might also speak about how you're interested in receiving individual donations, and just using your everyday work to actually somehow fit in this part as well. But definitely it's we're still giving the priority to the, again, as I said, to the donors that we know that are willing to fund LGBT organizations. But it's we'll try to engage more and more of the members of the community, and not just the LGBTI community, but the supporters and those who are kind of really there for us, but not just part of the community, and how to engage them more. That for us, it's not actually about the funds in the end that we collect. It's about what is being done with that money, and actually what the people who give it, what do they get from it, and do they maybe become our advocates in a way, if they feel engaged in that way, that they have given money, they also might be more willing to speak out for the cause that we're also fighting for. So that's kind of, we're having that perspective always in mind when we think about individual donations as well.
Okay, great. And Steffi, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think you just said something really, really good. So we also, before we talked with people again, like me and then the other co-president, we also thought about what actually can we offer them. So
what can you offer people? This is very important.
Yeah, what can we offer for if they give a big donation? And I think along this process to think about what can we offer, what basically doesn't cost us as much as the donation, helped us also to realize what we are actually offering and what we should talk with them about. In the end, no one asked for anything, so we were prepared, and then we could have said something. Yeah, maybe you can go with us to a podium, panel discussion, or I don't know, I forgot the things, but we had some more, and I think that helped us to focus a little bit more on the conversation.
Okay, great, thank you. And Anna, do you have any tips on people wondering about how to hedge their bets in terms of where to go ask for money?
Yeah, well, I guess in an ideal situation, an organization would have a diverse sources of funding, so as not to be kind of too dependent on one source. And I think it's ultimately just about weighing up the the pros and cons. So, for example, we're now talking about individual donor fundraising, and that can be very time-consuming if it's about organizing events or looking after a database, taking donors through a supporter journey. It can be time-consuming, and it might be a case where you don't see big results immediately or soon. But then on the pro side, it can give you a source of unrestricted funding rather than project-based. So you're more free in how you can use that money to meet real needs, core costs. And also it's part of that community building, like we've mentioned several times. So it's about making your supporters part of your work, engaging them, and it has positive elements such as you become more transparent as you explain your funding and your needs to your community, and it can create that long-term loyalty. So I think in every source of funding, whether it's individual donor fundraising or writing grant applications, they all have pros and cons, and it's just about finding what's right for you and your work.
And I'm going to build on this with the question from Ines Helder, who is asking, what about fundraising from companies? So I'll just warn everyone that this is not the topic of today's webinar, and therefore we don't have a prepared answer for that. Stephanie and Emina, I'll turn to you afterwards if either of you has experience in this. But Anna, what's your first piece of advice for people wondering how to fundraise from companies?
Well, I think it's kind of mapping resources and mapping networks, of course, is one of the first steps. So in your own communities of supporters, in your communities of beneficiaries, do you know someone who works for a company? Could they be your advocate internally? Might a company in your area have something like a match donation scheme where the company would match donations made by employees? So it's just finding those kind of entry points, and I think it's just as with individuals, what can you offer in exchange? So to create this kind of win-win situation, that if a company offers a prize for your auction, for example, you can give them visibility among your communities, and make your communities more aware of their services or their products. So yeah, quite similar techniques to individual donor fundraising, really.
Okay, Emina, did you fundraise from companies? Sorry, I think you're muted.
Sorry, it's for us. It's still at the level of it's also an ideological question. How much as an organization, what are your values and where you stand on certain things. But it's not something that we've done so far. For us, I think the option would be to, as Anna said, to map some of the companies that we think are socially responsible in a way, and that we also want to engage with in this way. So not yet, but it's something that we're also thinking of.
Considering, okay. And Steffi?
Yeah, actually, this is quite a big topic for us. So, Bruno, we never have talked about it, but we have a big, and originally the only project which was funded by the state is about trans people in the workplace. So we actually had a lot of contact with companies. We identified some, and where on actually people knew from people who knew that there are some companies which want to donate some stuff into LGBT community, and we told them, hey, we are actually here. If you want to donate to us, then you can donate specifically to trans. In this area, we my the other co-president, he is in the National Gay Business Association, and so which is only for networking of business people and business needs, and so this is actually basically an organization where there is somehow a lot of money in, not in the association itself, but in the people there. So it's a way to get in and maybe hear something from someone. And the rest is basically what we try is to offer services for the companies, which are basically overpriced. So so we like till now what we did is, or not now, but somewhere in last year, is if a company asks us, hey, we need a short introduction into the trans issues, then we said, yeah, no problem, we are coming to you, and we are doing a workshop, and if you like, and if it is okay for you, you can donate us a little bit of money. And now what we say is, okay, this is an hour workshop and it costs 500 Swiss francs. And then we come to you, and there will be someone who presents for 15 minutes, and after this there are just questions. And this is something where we right now are in the situation that we are actually overrun by requests from companies. So we started with just putting up on our website that we offer these services for companies without going in any details. And they are writing us emails, and they actually really ask for, okay, what are your paid services for companies? And which is, yeah, okay, then we will tell you, no problem. And this is interesting. And then I don't know if here's anyone in the group who is also more like a trans organization instead of a LGBT general association or LGB association. I'm very sorry if I exclude now someone. But what we figured out with companies here in Switzerland is actually that the topic gender in general is really well funded. Whereas the topic LGBT, or sorry, LG basically, it's really hard to get funding.
Okay, and focus on gender rather than LGBT.
This is now something we try, but this is maybe quite specific for trans and for association which focus on women's rights.
Okay, great, thank you very much. And I hope that answered your question, Ines. I want to thank everyone for being here today. The people in the chat room who have gifted us their very many insightful questions. I want to attract people's attention. At the very top of the chat room, you'll see a word from Nevin, who came in again. She says, Frida, the Young Feminist Fund, currently has a call for proposals open if someone is working in an association for young activist or youth issues with a feminist angle or a feminist focus. And she provides the link, which is youngfeministfund.org/apply. And I hope that may be useful to some people. In addition to this, I'm going to now share, because apparently we can do this in Webinar Jam, it's wonderful. I'm going to share the insider briefing. Sorry, wrong button. Click share file. That should appear on all your screens. The insider briefing is a compilation of strategic advice put together by us for ILGA Europe and the Global Philanthropy Project. In there, what will you find? You will find 3 essential preparatory steps to your fundraising. You'll find how to build your strategy, how to plan your resources and time adequately. It'll help you determine choosing who you will ask, the art of asking for money, how to manage donors, and common risks to avoid. So you'll no doubt find that very interesting. You can also, and I'm going to put this back on the screen, download the main report, which is called It Shows That People Care. It should display on your screen in about 5 seconds at ilga-europe.org/fundraising resources, all in one word. And if you go there, you will download that report. You will find 10 case studies, including from Switzerland and Bosnia and Herzegovina. You will find great advice that has been published by LGBTI Europe. So that's Anna, who is with us today, and the Global Philanthropy Project, Global Philanthropy Project, who have been putting together this webinar for you today. That's it for today. And as I said, watch your emails for a link to the 3 recordings of this webinar series. This was the last one of all 3. We hope it's been helpful. I want to thank very much Emina, Steffi, and Anna. It was an honor for me to be able to propel the voices of 3 very inspiring and innovative women, showing that fundraising is not only possible, but very powerful in our LGBTI communities. And I want to thank everyone again here for their questions today. And I wish you all happy fundraising adventures. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.